Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What a beautiful morning it is. What a gorgeous morning it is. Happy morning, healthy morning to everybody as we learn chitas of the day. Today is Tuesday, which is the third part of the portion of Vayechi, which is the last portion in the book of Genesis. Chapter 48, verse number 17. Vayar Yosef ki Yoshis, is my sound on? Yeah. Vayar Yosef ki Yoshis Yodai, and Yosef saw that his father was placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, and he was the younger, and it was not this, it was displeasing in his eyes. So he took the hold of his father's hand to take it off Me'al Reish Ephraim, to take it off of his brother of Ephraim's head, Reish Manasseh, to put it on the head of Manasseh, because that's the way he situated him. He put Manasseh specifically to the right. So Rashi says, what does it mean? He lifted it off his son's head and held it up on his own hand. He took it off the son's head. Verse 18, Yosef Alaviv, and Yosef told his father, this is not correct. Menashe is the older one, is the Bechor. Simincha, put your hand on his head. Put your right hand on his head. Verse 19, and his father refused. He said to Yosef, I know, my son, I know. He will also be a great nation. He will also be a great person. But his younger brother, Yigdal Mimenu, will be greater than him. And his children will be fame, will fill the nations. So Rashi says, I know, my son, I know that he's the firstborn. And he's also destined, for Gideon is destined to descend from him. Gideon, through whom the Holy One, blessed be he, will perform great miracles, and that will be a son of Manasseh. But ultimately, the great person that will come out of Ephraim is Joshua, who's destined to be descended from the family of Ephraim. From Ephraim, and Joshua is the one who will dispute the inheritance of who distribute the inheritance of the land of Israel and teach Torah to Israel. He's going to be the leader after Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, he is ultimately going to be greater. The whole world will be filled with his fame and his name. And the name will spread that Joshua stopped the sun in Gibeon and the moon in the valley of Elon. So his name is going to be famous too, because he will stop the sun and the moon in his time. And therefore, the offsprings of Ephraim are going to be greater. Verse 20. And he blessed them in that day. Lamer, Israel, with you, Israel will bless themselves. Lamer Yisimcha Likim Ephraim Menashe. May God make you like Ephraim and Menashe. Yosem is Ephraim Lefnei Menashe. He placed Ephraim before Menashe. So Rashi says, B'chol Yivrecha Yisrael. Whoever wishes to bless his sons will bless them with their blessing, with the blessing related to them. Meaning, a man will say to his son, may God make you like Ephraim and Menashe. And he put Ephraim before Menashe. He put him before Menashe and blessed him to give him precedence in the grouping of tribes in the desert. And also to dedicate the tabernacle by the tribal princes, that Ephraim will always go before Menashe. Actually, you see something great over here, that there was no hatred on Manasseh between Ephraim and Menashe, and that's where we see the end of Genesis, after all the fights of brothers, from Cain and Hevel, to Yaakov, Yitzchak, and Yishmael, and Yaakov and Esav, and Yosef and his brothers. Here we have a story of Ephraim and Menashe, where Jacob puts Ephraim before Menashe, and we don't find in the history where Ephraim or Menashe have any hatred to one another. Verse 21. And Israel said to Joseph, I'm going to die, and God will be with you. And he'll return you to the land of your fathers. Verse 22, and here he gives them another gift to Joseph. And I've given you one portion over your brothers, which I took from the Amorites with my sword and my bow. So Rashi says, I've given you this gift. Why? Since you have taken the trouble to occupy yourself with my burial, I've given you an inheritance where you will be buried. I'm giving you a place in Shechem. And which is this? This is Shechem. And it says in Joseph's bones, which the children of Israel had brought out of Egypt, they were buried in Shechem. And he's still there until today. Shechem Echad Alachecha. Shechem Echad is the actual city of Shechem, which will be for you one share over your brothers. Accordingly, we render Shechem, which is one share of Shechem Echad, is also a share. With my sword and my bow. So what is that story? When Shimon and Levi slew the men of Shechem, and those nations around them assembled to attack them, Jacob got ready his war to war, and that's what he means. That I got ready to fight. He ultimately didn't fight. The Chitas Elikim, God put the fear of God upon the nations, and didn't go out to war with him, but they were ready to go out to war with him. So, but Jacob said, I was ready to go out to war, and therefore it belongs to me. I bought it. I ultimately he bought Shechem, and he went out to war for Shechem, etc. One portion refers to the birthright, and indicates that Joseph's son would take two shares. Shechem is the meaning of portion. At the time he renders, there's a similar instance in Scripture. Shall place them as a portion. So Shechem is not a place, but a portion. You shall place my enemies before me as a portion. I will divide it in portions, Shechem, which I took from the hands of the Amorites, from the hands of Esav, who behaved like the Amorites. Another explanation of my Esav are called a Moidi, who deceived his father with saying things of his mouth. That's why he's called a Moidi. I say a Moidi. So Ashkachte miyad Moidi for the Amorites, which is Esav. Becharbi ubekashti. So Rashi says it could mean with his cleverness and his prayer. Becharbi ubekashti doesn't only mean with a sword and bow. It means becharbi is with your cleverness. Ubekashti is also could mean with your prayers. Bekashti depends on where you put the vowels on the word, which would change the word. Bekashti is a bow, but it also comes to the word bakasha, which is it's a plea, like a prayer. That completes the Chumash of the day. And now we go to the Tanya of the day. Tanya, we start chapter 12 of Tanya, which is the chapter which the Alter Rebbe called the whole book of Tanya, the book of the Beinoni, because now he explains the attribute of a Beinoni. What is a middleman? He started the whole Tanya to explain the 5 levels of humans. 5 levels. We have a righteous man that's good with him, a righteous man that is bad with him. That was a tzaddik she'einu gomer, a complete tzaddik, a not complete tzaddik. A wicked man that's bad with him, which is a wicked man that has no feeling for good, and then a wicked man that's good with him because he has good with him, and therefore he continues to do tshuva. He continues to repent. So what's a middleman? What is a middleman? This is a middleman. A middleman is one who's the evil of his animal soul, which is in him, but it never attains enough power to conquer the small city. So this is a very powerful thing. So a middleman has a Yetzirah, he has an evil inclination. The only difference is he doesn't give in to his evil inclination. And his evil inclination keeps on fighting with him and trying to get him to take over. But he doesn't give in. He never ever gives in. That's a middleman. To make him sin. So a middleman has a desire to sin. He has the capability of sin. He just never sins. And that's why you should all be that way. That's why we should all be that way. We should be like middlemen who have a desire to sin, who have the capability to sin, just we never ever sin. That is to say that the garments of the animalistic soul, that is the thought, speech, and action that comes from the klippa, from the other side. Forbidden thoughts, forbidden speech, forbidden action. They don't overpower the godly soul. So the Beinoni is a person that might have a desire to do something bad, but he never thinks about it. It comes to his mind, pushes it away. Comes to his mouth, pushes it away. It comes to his hands, pushes it away. Neither in his brain, so the brain thinks forbidden thoughts, he doesn't push it away. Nor in his mouth to speak forbidden words, pushes it away. Nor any of the 248 limbs. Any limb, whether it's to give, to do something, whether it's to walk someplace, whether it's to feel something, he doesn't let it in. He doesn't let it in. He doesn't let it to cause him to sin and defile them, God forbid. Only the garments of the divine soul, they alone manifest themselves in the body. They're the boss. The godly soul is the boss. But the problem is, he has a guy that constantly wants to fight him. And it's never going to go away. It's going to be an everlasting battle, as the Alter Rebbe will say. It's going to be an everlasting struggle. Which the godly soul only allows, he's the boss, and he only allows godly thoughts and godly speech and godly actions. And a Beinoni never did a sin. And he never will do a sin. And this is something that we all can do, because nobody should sin. Should we have a desire to sin? We have a desire to sin. Should we have a capability? We have a capability, but we don't sin. We have to have self-control. This is the whole Tanya. Self-control, mind over matter. That means matter is still there. The emotions and the feelings and the desires are there. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just say no. That's what a Beinoni is. He just says no. And this person never did a sin. He's never a rasha. Even 1 hour. Even 1 moment. Kol yom of all his days. Why? Because he always said no. That's it. He turned to his animalistic soul and he said no. And that's going to be something that he has to learn. And the Alter Rebbe is going to teach us. How do we talk to our animalistic soul to say no? Let's learn the Rebbe's notes on this part of the Tanya. The Rebbe notes, the question is well known, meaning with regard to the statement that a Beinoni is one who never transgressed. The following question is commonly raised. It is not possible. Is it not possible that through repentance and subsequent divine service that one attains the rank of a Beinoni despite his previous sins? after repenting, one can even reach a level of tzaddik. Surely then, the rank of a Beinoni is not beyond his reach. The Rebbe answers it as follows. The Alter Rebbe states that a Beinoni has never transgressed. He does not mean that a Beinoni has never sinned in his life as a human being, but that in his life as a Beinoni, he has no history of sin. The Beinoni represents a spiritual state in such that sin is the past as well as in the future, has no place in his life. He would not sin even if he were subject to the same temptations and trial in which led him to sin in the past. It is therefore true state that the perspective of his present state, he never sinned. That's the power of a Beinoni. The Beinoni lives in the present situation. What the past is the past. And he did tshuva for the past. But in the present state, he never sinned as he is right now. And that's the power of a Beinoni, is to live in the present situation. He can't say, "Oh, but I was not so perfect in the past, or maybe I won't be perfect in the future because I have an nefesh Bahamas, I have an animistic soul." The power of Beinoni is a person that constantly lives in the present. That's the power. That's the power of why a Beinoni is a constant struggle. He's like a guy in the stroller. He's like the Marines. They're constantly, they cannot worry about the past. They're right now in the battle. They're not gonna. We'll think about the past later. He's right now in the battle. Right now in the battle, he needs to be focused. So the Rebbe continues to be classified as a true Beinoni. One must fulfill these conditions. I'm sorry. Likewise, in the Alter Rebbe statement that a Beinoni will never sin is to be understood in the same vein. The intention is not that it's impossible for him to sin. He does not, after all, lose his freedom of choice. So who knows if he's not going to sin? Rather, explained above, his present state is such that it precludes him from sinning in the future. What's going to happen in the future? I don't know, because he has an animalistic soul. But right now, the past is not important, is over, and the future is not going to happen the way he is right now, despite the trials that the future may bring. So to classify a true Beinoni, one must fulfill these conditions. For if one spiritual state precludes his sinning only under present condition, but he would succumb to sins were subject to a temptation of the past or those of the future may bring him, he is then in potential a rasha. He could and would be sin, except that the prevailing circumstance is not sufficient conducive for him to do so. In the same vein, the Alter Rebbe concludes, the name rasha, referring to one who sins in thought, speech, and action, has never again in the state of a Beinoni been applied to him, however temporarily. For the Beinoni has reached a state where sin is precluded under any circumstances, whatever in the past or the future. The Beinoni lives in the present situation. We need to live, and that's what Alter Rebbe, this is, everybody can be a Beinoni. We need to live in the now. We say we ask God forgiveness every day for the past. A Beinoni leads to live in the present. But a Beinoni that never sinned should realize, however, the essence and the being of the divine soul, which are the 10 faculties, do not hold dispute and sovereignty its way over the small city. Because there is a fighter in the city. There is somebody else in the city who's trying to take over. So the Beinoni, even though he never sinned, has to constantly be in active motion. He has to constantly be ready to fight. Because if he's not going to be ready to fight, that animalistic soul is going to step up. Can be eaten is unless specific times. When a person is davening, at that time the prayer, the supernal intellect above is sublime state, and therefore, therefore even over here in this world, when you daven, you have the capability of separating yourself totally. Because then he can connect his wisdom and understanding to God. To be able to meditate deeply in the greatness of Israel. That's the power of davening. And to arouse through his meditation a burning love of God in the right part of his house, in the right part of his heart. And he has the capability to wake up that love. And when a Jew wakes up the love to the Eibishter, he forgets everything else. His animal soul is put to sleep. Problem is when he leaves this world. But when he's a part of the davening, he has that capability to awaken himself and to elevate himself totally and get rid of his animalistic soul for that moment. To be able to cleave to God by the means of fulfilling Torah mitzvahs out of love. Which this arousal to God of love to God, as we say in the Shema, which we are obligated to say, a biblical obligation to say the Shema every day, twice a day, minimum of twice a day, to say the Shema and to cleave and to say with all your heart, I love God with all my heart. And the blessings that we say before the Shema, and the blessings that we after the Shema, which those are rabbinical enactments. This is all like a preparation for the Shema. Alter Rebbe explains later in Tanya. What happens when a Jew prepares himself for the Shema? And he says the Pesukah, the Zimran, and he tells the blessings of the Shema, and then he says the Shema. What happens at that moment? And he feels the love of God in his prayer. Then at that moment, the evil animalistic soul that's in the left side of his heart, at that moment, is subjugated and nullified to the good side of his soul, to the right side. The Chochmah Bina Das, from the wisdom and understanding and knowledge that's in his mind, that are connected to the greatness of God, the infinite God, great to the greatness of God's Ein Sof, to his infinite. The problem is if the one's daven. When this intellect leaves and you go out to the world, and now you're out of the synagogue, you're now in the world, what happens? Then your evil inclination awakens. It awakens up in your left side. And now your evil inclination says, wait a second, I'm back home. I'm back here. And it awakens up. And now the animalistic soul says, I'm back home. I'm awake. I'm alive and well. And I feel desires. And I have lusts. And I have delights. Okay, I went to sleep for an hour when you went to shul. I now am wide awake. And that's the struggle with the Nefesh Bahamis. That's your struggle. That's our struggle. Since we're not tzaddikim, we are not Rishoyim, but we are not tzaddikim. We're not righteous people. We're going to continue to have a struggle. So we can, once in a while, through davening and learning, we can separate ourselves totally from our animalistic soul, and we can put him to sleep. Or we can knock him out, give him a knockout punch for the hour or two. And then it comes back, it wakens up later, and now the fight starts again. So that's the Beinoni, as the Alter Rebbe is going to continue to explain to us the possibilities of a Beinoni, the obligation of a Beinoni, the struggles of a Beinoni, Beinoni is a middleman, which each and every one of us, the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us that each and every one of us has an obligation to become a Beinoni at least. We should not be a Rasha. We might not be able to be a tzaddik, but we each and every one of us could be a middleman, a Beinoni. And that's going to be the obligation. Really now starts the whole Tanya, which is, the whole book is called Sefer Shel Beinonim, the book of the middleman. And the Alter Rebbe is going to go through all the struggles of a middleman, his ups and his downs, his strengths and his weaknesses, his victories, and how we, as a Beinoni, that we should be able to be the most happy, healthy, and successful Beinoni that each and every one of us could be. And that ends the Tanya of the day. Today is the 14th day of the month, which is chapter in your Tillim, in your Psalms. It's chapter 72, 73, 74, 75, 76. So 72 to 76 in your Psalms, and you would have done Chitas of the day. I wish you a wonderful, happy, and healthy day. Baruch Hashem, we have a wedding tonight in our community, so therefore the Chumash shir, the Chumash class, is going to be pushed off till tomorrow. I wish you a wonderful, beautiful, and happy and healthy day.
You too, Rabbi. You too.